Sienna's words hit me like a slap across the face as she stood in the kitchen of my son's house, her immaculate wedding dress hanging behind her. The best gift you could give us, Mr. Caldwell, would be to disappear from our family forever. She flashed that fake smile I'd grown to despise with all my soul. DeMarco just nodded, not even meeting my eyes. If you're watching this, subscribe to the channel and leave a comment telling me where you're watching from. But first, let me give you the context of how I got to this point. I need your likes and comments to know you're with me on this story that's going to leave your jaw on the floor. How did I get here? 3 years ago, I sold my beautiful house in the historic Cooper Young neighborhood of Memphis. It was a house full of memories that my late wife Gloria and I restored with so much love over 30 years. I sold it to give DeMarco and Sienna the down payment for their dream home in the upscale Germantown area, $650,000. All the savings of a lifetime handed over with the unconditional love of a father who just wants to see his son happy. They promised me I would always have a place there, that I would always be part of their family, that I would never want for anything. Now, on the eve of the lavish wedding I was financing, Sienna had decided I was disposable, a nuisance, a bother. "You heard that, didn't you, Dad?" DeMarco finally said, his voice cold and unfamiliar. "This is supposed to be our special weekend. Your negativity is ruining everything." My negativity? I'd spent the entire morning arranging the garden flowers, the afternoon helping with last-minute prep, and the evening listening to Sienna complain about everything from the weather to the catering menu. The only negative thing I did was suggest that maybe we didn't need ice sculptures shaped like swans that cost $2,800 each. "Where exactly should I go?" I asked, my voice strangely level. Sienna shrugged, examining her perfectly manicured nails. A costly manicure I had paid for last week. "I don't know, Mr. Caldwell. A hotel? Your brother's place in Nashville. Honestly, I don't care where you go, as long as you're not here tomorrow." "This is still my son's house too," I reminded her, trying to stay calm. Actually, DeMarco nervously cleared his throat. "It's more Sienna's house now. She's been handling the finances and improvements. You just gave us some money once." "Some money, once." $650,000 reduced to some money. I stood there in the kitchen where I had cooked countless family dinners, looking at the granite countertops I helped pick out, the custom cabinets my money made possible, the imported refrigerator we installed together. These people had taken everything I gave them and convinced themselves they deserved it, that it was their right. It was at that moment that something inside me didn't break, but shifted like a gear clicking into a different position. Like when you decide enough is enough. "You're right," I said softly. "I should leave." Sienna looked surprised. She was probably expecting tears, begging. The typical drama she could later describe to her friends as Old Man Caldwell being difficult again. That clueless old fossil who doesn't get how things work now. "I'll pack my things and be out in an hour." DeMarco actually looked relieved, as if a weight had been lifted. "It's for the best, Dad. We'll talk after the honeymoon when things calm down. When everything gets back to normal. Talk after the honeymoon, as if this were just a temporary fight over table arrangements, as if nothing had happened." I went upstairs to the guest room that had been my home for the last 6 months. Not my room. I was never allowed to call it that. It was always the guest room because guests eventually leave. That was the idea all along. As I folded my clothes and packed them into a suitcase, I could hear them downstairs already planning how to reorganize the space. Their voices carried clearly up the stairs. Sienna wanted to convert it into a yoga studio. DeMarco thought it would be a good home office. Neither of them considered that maybe, just maybe, they should feel some guilt about kicking out the man who made their perfect life possible. I stopped in front of Gloria's photo on the nightstand. 43 years of marriage, and she never, not once, made me feel unwelcome in my own home. My Gloria, with her confident smile, her hands always busy, her laugh that filled the entire house. "Don't worry, my love," I whispered to her image. "I'm not going down without a fight. I promise you." But first I had to make some calls. I sat in my car outside their house. Don't forget that. Outside the house my money bought. I pulled out my phone and dialed the emergency number for my attorney. Patricia Hayes had been handling my affairs since Gloria's death, and she had warned me about this exact scenario. "Mr. Caldwell, protect your investment. Don't rely only on their word, she told me 2 years ago. Mr. Caldwell, it's Saturday night. Is everything all right? Her voice sounded worried. Patricia, I need you to pull the house purchase documentation. Everything. A pause. Did something happen with DeMarco and Sienna? I told her everything. Sienna's ultimatum. DeMarco's betrayal. The casual way they treated my contribution as some money once. Patricia listened without interruption, though I could hear her furiously typing on her computer. Mr. Caldwell, I've been worried about this for months. The way they've been treating your investment as a gift instead of what it really was. What do you mean what it really was? Another longer pause this time. You don't remember signing those additional documents. The ones I insisted you sign after you expressed concerns about Sienna's spending habits when you told me she spent like money grew on trees. My heart started to beat faster. Patricia, please tell me you protected me somehow. Oh, Mr. Caldwell, the $650,000 wasn't a gift. Legally, it was a loan with your name on the deed as a co-owner. Sienna never signed the acknowledgement forms I sent. In the eyes of Tennessee law, you own 35% of that house. I almost dropped the phone. The world seemed to stop for a moment. Are you serious? Completely serious. Sienna kept forgetting to sign the paperwork, and you were so focused on keeping the family peace that you never pushed it. But the mortgage with the bank has you listed as a co-owner. The public deed registered with the Shelby County Recorder shows your stake. It is all completely legal and binding under Tennessee law. Through the kitchen window, I could see Sienna showing her wedding dress to someone on a video call, probably her mother in Nashville. She was laughing, gesticulating animatedly, completely oblivious to the conversation that was about to change her life. Patricia, hypothetically, what would happen if I wanted to sell my share of the house? Well, as a co-owner, you would have every right to force a sale. The other owners would have the right of first refusal, of course. They could buy your share at the current market value, and if they couldn't afford your share, then the house goes on the market, and the proceeds are split according to the ownership percentages recorded on the deed. I watched DeMarco appear in the kitchen window, popping a bottle of champagne to celebrate their freedom from the annoying father, no doubt. Patricia, I need you to prepare a notice of intent to sell. I want it delivered first thing Monday morning into their hands with a return receipt. Mr. Caldwell, are you sure about this? Once we initiate this process, I've never been more sure of anything in my life, Patricia. They want me to disappear. Perfect. But I'm taking my 35% with me, and God help them. After hanging up, I sat in the growing darkness, watching my son and his fiancée toast their future in the house I made possible. They had no idea that in less than 48 hours their perfect little world was going to collapse like a house of cards. But first, I had one more call to make. The Dixon Gallery and Gardens. This is Michelle. How may I help you? Hello, Michelle. This is Mr. James Caldwell. I need to speak to the event coordinator about tomorrow's wedding reception. Oh, Mr. Caldwell, how exciting. The wedding is tomorrow, right? How can I help? I'm very sorry, but there's been a change of plans. I need to cancel the reception. Cancel? But sir, it's less than 24 hours away. The food is already being prepped. The staff is scheduled. The jazz band is already confirmed. I understand, and I'm prepared to pay the cancellation fee as stipulated by the contract. But sir, the contract is in my name. I put down the $35,000 deposit. I paid the 50% prepayment. I believe I have the right to make changes, don't I? A rustling of papers. Let me verify. Yes, the contract is in your name with your credit card information, but surely you'd want to speak with the couple first. No, that's not necessary. I'm making an executive decision. Please cancel everything. The reception, the band, the flowers, everything. Mr. Caldwell, with all due respect, this seems like something that should involve the couple. It's their wedding. I watched Sienna through the window, trying on her veil for the 100th time that day. The couple made it very clear that my involvement in their lives is no longer welcome. So, I am just honoring their wishes, doing exactly what they asked. 20 minutes later, I was checking into the Peabody Memphis in downtown, ordering room service, and feeling something I hadn't felt in years. The satisfaction of taking control of my own life. If you're enjoying this story, Don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next parts. Leave a comment telling me what you would do in James Caldwell's place. Do you think he did the right thing? I'll read your comments. My phone started ringing at 11:47 p.m. What have you done? Sienna's voice was screaming so loudly I had to hold the phone away from my ear. I honored your request, I said calmly, muting the TV in my hotel suite. You wanted me to disappear, so I disappeared. The Dixon Gallery called. They said you canceled our reception. Our wedding reception, Mr. Caldwell. There are 175 people expecting dinner tomorrow. 175? I'm sure there are. That seems like a problem for you, dear. DeMarco grabbed the phone. Dad, this is insane. You can't just cancel our wedding because you're upset about the accommodation. I didn't cancel your wedding, son. You can still get married. I only canceled the reception I was paying for. You know, the one that was costing me $165,000. Silence. A silence so profound I could hear their ragged breathing. I'd never mentioned the cost before, always deflecting the conversation when they asked about the money. I wanted to be the generous father, while they remained happily oblivious to the sacrifices involved, the effort it represented. $165,000, I repeated slowly, letting each word drop like a stone. The reception, the flowers, the photographer, the band, the catering, all of that. You thought it was all free. You thought the money just materialized because you two decided to have a fairy tale wedding. But we can't notify 175 people. There's no reception, DeMarco stammered. You're resourceful adults. I'm sure you'll figure it out. I hear that barbecue and fried catfish are very economical. You could throw a block party in the backyard. Sienna was crying now. Hysterical sobs that might have made me feel guilty 6 months ago. Now they sounded like the tantrums she'd been throwing since the engagement. How could you do this to us? We trusted you. You're DeMarco's father. Trusted me? You literally told me to. Disappear from your family. I'm only complying with your request, my dear daughter. I didn't mean forever. Sienna wailed. I only meant for the weekend so you wouldn't be in the way. Ah, I see. So, I should have guessed that when you said forever, you meant temporarily. How foolish of me not to understand your secret code. DeMarco tried a different approach. Dad, please can we talk about this like adults? Come back home, and let's fix this. To a house where I'm no longer welcome. The house where my presence ruins everything. I don't think so, son. Where are you staying anyway? Sienna demanded, as if she had the right to know. That's no longer your concern, is it? You made it very clear that my accommodations were my problem to solve. You said so yourself. I could hear frantic whispering in the background. They were probably trying to figure out how to undo the mess they'd created. The panic in their voices was palpable. Could you at least call the Dixon Gallery back? DeMarco pleaded. Maybe if you explain it was a misunderstanding. It was not a misunderstanding. It was a very clear business decision made by the person paying for everything, the contract holder. But what about our guests? Sienna's family who came all the way from Nashville. The bridal party? DeMarco asked in desperation. What about them? You're still getting married. They can still witness it. They just won't get a free meal afterward. They can go get barbecue or burgers, right? Sienna took the phone back. You're being spiteful and cruel, Mr. Caldwell. This is beneath you. No, dear. Spiteful and cruel was telling the man who has been supporting your dream wedding to disappear from your family. I'm just being fiscally responsible, looking out for my money. This is going to ruin everything. Everyone will think we're broke. It will be humiliating. Well, since you brought it up, I let the sentence hang for a moment, watching them squirm. Since you brought it up, without my financial support, you probably will be broke very quickly. That is another topic we need to discuss. What do you mean? DeMarco's voice was tight with dread. I mean, have you reviewed your household budget lately? Do you know what your monthly expenses are compared to your income? Because I've been supplementing your lifestyle in ways you probably didn't even notice. The grocery money I give Sienna when we go to Whole Foods together. The utility bills I pay online because you're a little tight this month. The car repairs, the insurance, the little emergencies that always pop up. All of that. Those were gifts, Sienna said faintly. Were they? Because from my perspective, they look more like an allowance. And allowances can be suspended at any time. The silence stretched so long I thought they had hung up. Finally, DeMarco spoke. What do you want, Dad? Now that was interesting. An hour ago, they couldn't wait to be rid of me. Now, they wanted to negotiate. I want exactly what you offered me to. Disappear from your family permanently. And I want to take my money with me when I go. Every last dollar I invested. On Sunday morning, my phone had 38 missed calls and 47 text messages. I ignored them all as I enjoyed a room service breakfast and read the newspaper like a civilized person. Cheese grits, black coffee, a biscuit, the simple things I had forgotten to enjoy. The wedding was scheduled for noon. At 9, someone knocked on my hotel room door. Through the peephole, I saw DeMarco in his wrinkled dress shirt, looking like he hadn't slept all night. Deep circles under his eyes, messy hair, crooked tie. Dad, please, we need to talk. I opened the door but didn't invite him in. Shouldn't you be getting ready for your big day? That's what I need to talk to you about. His eyes were red, desperate. Sienna is having a breakdown. She locked herself in the bathroom and won't come out. Her mom is threatening to go back to Nashville on the next bus. Everything is falling apart, Dad. I'm sorry to hear that, son. I hope you sort it out. Sort it out. Dad, you destroyed our wedding. Our wedding? No, son. I withdrew my financial support for your wedding. There's a difference. A major difference. He pushed past me into the room and I let him. Sometimes you have to let people hang themselves with their own words. Let them dig their own grave. This is crazy. All because of what? A misunderstanding about accommodation. Sit down, DeMarco. Something in my tone made him obey. I remained standing, looking down at my 42-year-old son, who was finally starting to understand that actions have consequences, that in life, everything comes with a price. This is not about accommodation. This is about respect. This is about gratitude. This is about treating the person who made your lifestyle possible like a human being instead of a nuisance. A walking ATM. We've always treated you well, Dad. Oh, really? When was the last time you asked about my life, my interests, my feelings? When was the last time you invited me somewhere because you wanted my company, not because you needed my help or my money? He opened his mouth and closed it. I waited. The silence stretched uncomfortably. I could see him searching his memory and finding nothing. When was the last time you called just to chat? When was the last time you remembered my birthday without Facebook reminding you? When was the last time you treated me like your father instead of your personal ATM? That's not fair, Dad. It is fair, DeMarco. In the last year, how much money did I give you and Sienna? Tell me. I don't know. A few thousand here and there for emergencies. Maybe $8,000. $51,700. Your face is white as a sheet, son. $51,700 in emergencies and small help. And that's besides the $650,000 down payment on the house. That adds up to a total of $701,700, DeMarco. More than most people earn in 5 years of hard work. We always intended to pay you back, Dad. Seriously? Really? Because Sienna has been looking at a new car, a Mercedes SUV. You two have been looking at European vacation packages. Paris, Rome, Barcelona. Neither of you mentioned paying me back even once. You didn't even consider it. He leaned forward, his head in his hands. What do you want from me, Dad? What do you want me to do? I want you to understand that I am not your personal ATM. I want you to understand that kindness and generosity are not infinite resources. And I want you to understand that when you treat someone poorly for long enough, that person eventually stops caring about your problems. So, you're punishing us by ruining our wedding day? The cruelty in that statement confirmed everything I'd been feeling. No, DeMarco. I'm protecting myself by interrupting a pattern of financial and emotional abuse. Financial abuse? That's ridiculous. Is it? You've conditioned me to believe my only value to your family is monetary. You've trained me to expect crumbs of affection in exchange for huge financial contributions. You've made me feel guilty for having needs and expectations, while you took everything offered for granted. I sat across from him, looking him straight in the eye. Yesterday, Sienna told me the best gift I could give your family was to disappear permanently. And you agreed with her. After everything I've done, everything I've sacrificed, you agreed that I should disappear. She didn't mean it, Dad. She did, and so did you. And you know what? You're going to get exactly what you asked for. He looked up sharply. What does that mean? I smiled, and it was not a kind smile. It means you'd better figure out how to pay for your own lifestyle from now on. It means you'd better hope Sienna's parents are generous. And it means you'd better start looking for apartments because the house situation is about to get very complicated. What are you talking about? His voice was taut with fear. I'm talking about the legal documents you never bothered to read before your mother and I helped with the down payment. The ones that make me a co-owner of your precious Germantown home. The color completely drained from his face. All the blood rushed from his head. That's right, son. I own 35% of your house, and I'm about to put it up for sale. The house you brag about so much on social media. DeMarco stared at me as if I had spoken in some ancient language. You can't own part of our house. We bought it. We live there. It's ours. With my $650,000 down payment, did you think that money just evaporated into thin air? That disappeared. But you said it was a gift. You said you wanted to help us start our life together. I pulled out my phone and scrolled to the email Patricia had sent me the night before. Would you like me to read you the relevant legal documents? That's impossible. Sienna would have had to sign something. She would have told me. Sienna was supposed to sign something. She kept forgetting to return the papers. Patricia filed them anyway with the Shelby County recorder. It's all legal. DeMarco was shaking now. With anger or fear, I wasn't sure. You planned this. You were planning this all along. Oh, son, if I were planning this, don't you think I would have done it before I paid for your wedding? The truth of that seemed to hit him. I had spent $165,000 on a wedding for people who had just told me to disappear. If I were plotting something, I would have stopped months ago. So, what happens now? His voice was small, defeated. Now you have a choice. You can buy my 35% share at the current market value, or we can sell the house and divide the proceeds according to the recorded ownership percentages. We can't afford your share. The house is worth $2,100,000 now. 35% of that is over $735,000. Almost exactly what you invested. But the house went up in value. I know. I'm good at math. That's why I have money. And you two are always broke, always asking for more. He winced. We're not. We just have a lot of expenses. DeMarco, your combined household income is $118,000 a year. Your mortgage is already $5,900 a month. Add in the car payments, the credit cards, the bills, the groceries, Sienna's shopping habit, the dining out, and you're spending more than you make every month. Much more. How do you know all this? Because I've been making up the difference for the last 3 years. Did you think the money fairy left cash under your pillow every month? The hotel phone rang. I answered it while DeMarco sat there processing the new reality. Mr. Caldwell, this is Michelle from the Dixon Gallery and Gardens. The mother of the bride is on the other line. She's asking if we can reinstate today's reception. She says she will pay all the costs if you permit it. I looked at DeMarco, who was listening with desperate hope in his eyes. That is very generous of her, Michelle, but I'm sorry. It won't be possible. Dad, please, DeMarco began. I held up my hand to silence him. You see, Michelle, there are some family dynamics at play here that make it inappropriate for me to accept payment from other family members for an event I decided to cancel. I must maintain my business decision. I understand, Mr. Caldwell. Should I tell Mrs. Thompson that the cancellation stands? Yes, please. And Michelle, please send my final invoice to this hotel. I'll pay everything I owe for the inconvenience. I always honor my obligations. After hanging up, I turned back to DeMarco. Sienna's mother was willing to pay $165,000 to save your reception. She had been planning this wedding for months. She invited half of her social club. What a shame. Too bad her daughter couldn't be civil to the person who was originally paying for everything. Very regrettable. DeMarco pulled out his phone. I need to call Sienna. We need to figure out what to do about the house, about all of this. Go ahead. But DeMarco, when you talk to your wife about our new arrangement, make sure she understands one thing. He looked at me as he dialed. I'm not the same man who left your house last night. That man was desperate to maintain family peace at any cost. This man is tired of being exploited. Very tired. You're really going to force us to sell our house, our Germantown house. I'm going to exercise my legal rights as a co-owner. What you do with that information is up to you. The ball is in your court now." He left without another word, presumably to deliver the worst news of Sienna's life on what should have been her happiest day. The irony was delicious. 20 minutes later, my phone rang again. James. Sienna's voice was barely recognizable through the sobs. "We need to talk." "No, dear, we don't. You made it very clear yesterday that talking to me was not something you were interested in, that I was a nuisance. I was upset. I was stressed about the wedding. I didn't mean what I said." "Of course you were upset. It must be exhausting pretending to tolerate someone you clearly despise." "I don't despise you, James. Please. In the 3 years since you moved into the house I bought for you, you have never once thanked me. Not once. You never asked about my life, my interests, my health. You never invited me to anything unless you needed me to babysit, bring food, or ask for money. But you're DeMarco's father, your family." Sienna wailed through her sobs. "Yesterday you told me the best gift I could give this family was to disappear permanently. Today you say I'm family. Which is it, Sienna? You can't have both." More desperate crying. That desperate wailing used to make me rush to her with tissues and comfort. Now it just sounded manipulative. "James, please. I'll do anything. I'll apologize publicly. I'll pay you back whatever you want. Pay me back with what money? You don't work, remember? You're a full-time homemaker in a house you couldn't maintain without my money. I'll get a job. I promise." "That's a great idea." "You should, but it doesn't change the current house situation. What if we agreed to pay you back everything? All the money you've given to us over the years. Every dollar." I almost laughed. "Sienna, darling, you owe me. Saith Canticun, saith can't. At the Tennessee minimum wage, it would take you about 9 years to earn that amount. And that's assuming you never spend a single penny on anything else. No food, no rent, no nothing." The silence that followed was the sound of reality finally sinking into her mind. By 4:07 p.m., they had called 19 more times. I didn't answer any of them. Instead, I sat in the hotel restaurant, enjoying a delicious late lunch and watching a local news report about a wedding disaster at the Dixon Gallery and Gardens. The reporter didn't name names, but the footage of Sienna in her wedding dress crying on the steps was pretty unmistakable. Social media was already ablaze with commentary. "Excuse me, aren't you James Caldwell?" I looked up and saw a woman my age, with perfectly styled gray hair and kind eyes. She looked familiar, but I couldn't place her. "I'm sorry. Do we know each other?" "Lorraine Thompson, Sienna's mother." She gestured to the empty chair across from me. "May I sit down?" This was going to be interesting. "Mrs. Thompson sat down with the grace of someone who had spent decades managing social crisis. An elegant woman, one who knows how to behave in any situation. "I wanted to thank you, James. That was not what I expected to hear." "Thank me for what exactly?" "For showing my daughter who she really is, who she has become." The waitress appeared, and Mrs. Thompson ordered a black coffee. I waited, curious to see where this was going. The silence between us was not awkward, but expectant. "I've been worried about Sienna for years," Mrs. Thompson continued. "That sense of entitlement, the way she treats people she considers beneath her, the complete lack of gratitude for anything. I kept hoping marriage would mature her, that it would make her grow up." Her coffee arrived. She drank it thoughtfully before continuing. "And now I've seen how she treats the man who made her lifestyle possible. And I'm horrified, ashamed to be her mother." "Mrs. Thompson, you don't have to. Please let me finish." She raised her hand gently. "I offered to pay for the reception, not because I support Sienna's behavior, but because I felt responsible for the 175 guests who were inconvenienced, the social embarrassment they were going to suffer. I understand, but you were right to refuse. My daughter needed to face the consequences of her actions. Real consequences. The kind that can't be fixed with daddy's money or mommy's connections." Mrs. Thompson reached into her purse and pulled out an envelope. She placed it on the table between us. "Sienna called me hysterically about the house situation, demanding I lend her money so they could buy your share. $735,000, James, as if it were pocket change." "And what did you tell her?" "I told her absolutely not. That if she wanted to own a house, she should have treated the co-owner with respect. That actions have consequences." A woman after my own heart, I thought. "May I ask you something, James?" Of course. What is your endgame here? Do you plan to force the sale of the house? I leaned back in my chair, considering the question carefully. I've been asking myself the same thing, Mrs. Thompson. Honestly, I haven't decided yet. Part of me wants to see if they really can figure out how to maintain themselves without my money. Part of me wants to sell the house just to watch their perfect little world collapse, like a house of cards. And the other part remembers that DeMarco is still my son, despite everything, that blood is blood. Mrs. Thompson shook her head slowly. I understand that feeling, but I can give you one piece of advice from someone who has been complicit in her daughter's bad behavior for 38 years. Please go ahead. Don't save her from this. Whatever your decision about the house, don't cushion her fall. Sienna has never faced real consequences for treating people poorly, and it has made her into someone I barely recognize as my daughter. She pulled a business card from her bag and slid it toward me. I'm heading back to Nashville tomorrow. If you ever want to talk to someone who understands what it's like to love an ungrateful child, call me anytime. After Mrs. Thompson left, I was alone with my thoughts and my phone, which was still buzzing with increasingly desperate messages. The notifications wouldn't stop. The truth was, I hadn't decided what my endgame would be. I had been reacting, protecting myself, setting boundaries. But now I needed to figure out what came next, what I really wanted. The radical option was to force the sale. DeMarco and Sienna would have to find an apartment, probably in a less exclusive part of the city. They would finally understand what it means to live within their means, how normal people live. The merciful option was to offer them my share for less than the market value, maybe just what I had actually invested in the house. They would still struggle, but they could keep their home, their social status. The vindictive option was to maintain my ownership stake indefinitely, collecting my share of the property taxes and any improvements, while watching them squirm month after month, watching them suffer slowly. As I sat there weighing my options, my phone rang again. This time it wasn't DeMarco or Sienna. Mr. Caldwell, this is Detective Martinez from the Memphis Police Department's Elder Abuse Unit. I'm calling about a report we received regarding financial exploitation of a senior adult. My blood ran cold. Excuse me, what? We received a call from someone alleging that family members have been financially exploiting you, and that you may be suffering from cognitive impairment. They are requesting a wellness check. Those manipulators, those damned manipulators. Detective Martinez, I can assure you that I am in full possession of my mental faculties. In fact, I'm thinking more clearly than I have in my entire life. I'm glad to hear that, sir, but we have to follow up on these reports. It's a protocol. Would you be available to meet with me tomorrow morning? I looked around the hotel restaurant at the normal people living their normal lives and felt a wave of pure fury at my son and daughter-in-law's latest manipulation. Absolutely, Detective. In fact, I have quite a bit I'd like to talk to you about regarding financial exploitation, just not the kind my family reported. After scheduling the meeting, I leaned back in my chair and smiled. If DeMarco and Sienna wanted to play hardball, I was more than ready to step up to the plate. It was time to show them what a real power play looked like. Detective Martinez was younger than I expected, maybe around 43, with intelligent eyes and the kind of patient demeanor that probably served him well in family disputes. We met at the police headquarters on Monday morning, and I brought my entire financial folder. Mr. Caldwell, I want to start by saying that the person who called us seemed genuinely concerned about your welfare. I'm sure she did. My daughter-in-law is very good at seeming concerned when it suits her. She's an excellent actress. I spread my bank statements across his desk. Over the last 3 years, I have given my son and his wife $701,700. Would you like to see the documentation? His eyebrows raised as he examined the papers. Check after check. Transfers, credit card payments made in their names, a pattern of financial dependence that looked exactly like what it was. Systemic exploitation. This is substantial, he said carefully. It is. And yesterday, when I finally set some boundaries about how they treat me, they decided that I must be mentally incompetent, that I'm crazy. I pulled out my phone and played the audio Sienna had left at 10 a.m. James, this behavior is insane. Normal people don't destroy their families' lives over hurt feelings. We're worried about you. Maybe you need to see someone. Get professional help. DeMarco thinks you might be having some kind of nervous breakdown. You need a psychiatrist. Detective Martinez listened, taking meticulous notes. Has there been any history of cognitive issues, Mr. Caldwell? None. I manage my own finances. I own my own home. I drive my car. I travel alone. The only thing that has changed is that I stopped allowing them to take advantage of me. That's all. I showed him the house documents Patricia had sent me. My attorney can verify that I am the legal co-owner of their property. Everything I am doing is within my rights as an investor, protecting my assets. And the wedding cancellation. I was paying for a reception for people who told me to disappear from their family permanently. So, I honored their request. Nothing more, nothing less. We talked for another 30 minutes. Detective Martinez was thorough but fair, and by the end he seemed satisfied that I was mentally competent and financially astute, a man making rational decisions. Mr. Caldwell, I'm going to close this case as unfounded, but I want to give you information about resources for elder financial abuse, just in case. Actually, Detective, I think I have the situation well under control now. Very much under control. As I left the precinct, my phone rang. DeMarco again. Dad, the police called. They said they aren't going to proceed with the wellness check. That's because I'm not the one being financially abused in this relationship, son. What is that supposed to mean? It means that you and Sienna have been systematically draining my resources for years while giving me nothing but disrespect in return. The detective was very interested in my documentation. Very interested. A long pause. I could hear him breathing heavily. You're threatening us. I'm informing you that your manipulation tactics no longer work. You no longer hold power over me. Dad, please, can we just sit down and talk about this like adults, like family? We can, but not in the house I co-own. And not until Sienna apologizes for her behavior. A real apology, not an acted one. She is sorry. She's been crying for 2 days. She's sorry the audio she left me at 3 a.m. suggested she thinks I'm mentally ill, not that she's remorseful. Another pause. The weight of the silence was palpable. Where do you want to meet? At Patricia Hayes's office tomorrow at 2 p.m. Bring Sienna and a realistic proposal for how you are going to handle the house situation. A serious proposal. A proposal. DeMarco, I own 35% of an asset worth $2,100,000. That is my retirement security, my future. Either you buy me out or we sell. Those are your options. No more. After hanging up, I realized something had shifted in our dynamic. For the first time in years, they needed something from me more than I needed something from them. And that feeling was liberating. Patricia's office felt like neutral territory. All dark wood and leather-bound books. DeMarco and Sienna arrived 20 minutes late, looking like they had argued in the car. Sienna's makeup was smudged, her eyes swollen and red. She had clearly been crying for days, and part of me felt a pang of sympathy. The other part remembered her words. The best gift would be for you to disappear from our family. James, Sienna began immediately. I owe you a huge apology. I was stressed and overwhelmed, and I said things I didn't mean. Horrible things. Thank you. That's a start. A good first step. She looked surprised, as if she expected me to forgive her immediately and for everything to return to normal. Patricia spread the house documents across the conference table. Let's review the facts. James provided $650,000 for the down payment. The mortgage lists him as a co-owner. The deed shows his 35% share. Everything is legally recorded. DeMarco studied the papers as if they might magically change, as if the words would rearrange themselves. We had no idea about the ownership stake. No one explained it to us. You would have known if Sienna had signed the acknowledgement forms, Patricia replied dryly. I sent them 3 times. Certified mail. I was busy with wedding preparations, Sienna said faintly. For 3 years? Patricia's tone was wonderfully skeptical. I let them squirm for a moment before speaking. The question now is, how do we move forward? I have a proposal. They both leaned forward, hopeful, desperate for a way out. Option 1, you buy my 35% share at the current market value, $735,000. Sienna's face went white. We don't have that kind of money. It's impossible. Option 2, We put the house up for sale and divide the proceeds according to the ownership percentages. Simple math. We'd have to move, DeMarco said softly. Leave Germantown. Lose everything we built. Yes. To something you can actually afford. To something commensurate with your actual income. How most people live. And option 3? Sienna asked desperately. There is no option 3. These are your 2 options. Nothing more. If you're enjoying this story, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the conclusion. Do you think James Caldwell is being too harsh? Or do you think DeMarco and Sienna deserve this? Leave it in the comments. Your opinion matters greatly to me. Patricia grabbed a calculator. If you sold the house today, after broker commissions and closing costs, you'd likely net around $1,950,000. James's share would be approximately $682,500. You would have $1,267,500 to find a new residence. That's not enough for anything decent in Germantown, Sienna protested. It's enough for a nice condo or a smaller house in another neighborhood, I countered. You know, the kind of place people with your actual income should be living in. How the majority of people live. DeMarco ran his hands through his hair in desperation. Dad, is there any way we can do a payment plan? Maybe pay you monthly until we've bought your share, like a mortgage with you? I was waiting for that question. I saw it coming a mile away. At what interest rate and with what collateral? You have already demonstrated that you don't honor financial agreements. Why should I trust you now? That's not fair, Dad. It is fair. You owe me $51,700 in emergency loans you never intended to repay. You didn't even consider it. Why should I trust you with another $735,000? Sienna started crying again. That dramatic wailing that probably worked on DeMarco but not on me anymore. This is going to destroy our lives, everything we've built. No, Sienna. This is going to force you to live within your means for the first time in your adult life. To live like normal people do with your income. But what about our credit? Our reputation in Germantown? DeMarco asked. I almost laughed. The audacity of that question. Your credit, son. Your credit is already terrible. You've been late on every bill for months. I know because I've been bailing you out every month like a fool. Patricia cleared her throat professionally. I must advise that James has every legal right to force a sale. He is being more than generous by offering these options. Much more generous than he needs to be. How long do we have to decide? DeMarco asked, his voice trembling. 30 days, I said. That should give you time to explore your financing options to see what you can do. As we prepared to leave, Sienna grabbed my arm in desperation. James, please. I know I hurt you, but we're family. Doesn't that count for something? Isn't that worth anything? I looked at her hand on my arm, then at her face. For a moment, I saw the scared young woman behind the facade, the real woman beneath the mask. Sienna, family should count for something. That's exactly the point. That's the entire problem. 2 weeks after the 30-day deadline, I had an unexpected visitor. Mrs. Thompson was at my hotel room door with a bottle of red wine and a determined expression. I hope you don't mind me dropping in unannounced. I got your hotel information from Patricia Hayes. I gave her permission. I invited her in, curious about what had brought Sienna's mother back to Memphis. I came to see the kids, Mrs. Thompson said, settling into the room's only armchair. And to talk to you, James. How are they? Terrible. Sienna is having daily panic attacks. DeMarco is working overtime trying to find a way out. They're fighting constantly. The house looks like a battlefield. I poured 2 glasses of wine, surprised to find I felt less satisfaction in their misery than I had expected. Perhaps my heart was still too soft. Mrs. Thompson, are you here to ask me to reconsider? Actually, no. I'm here to tell you about Sienna's father, about how we raised her. That was not what I expected to hear. Richard spoiled our daughter rotten. Mrs. Thompson continued. Every tantrum was rewarded. Every consequence was cushioned. Every failure was someone else's fault. She never had to face reality. She sipped her wine thoughtfully. When Sienna was 16, she totaled the car driving drunk after a party. Instead of letting her face the legal consequences, Richard hired the best lawyer money could buy, and the charges were dropped. He paid for everything, and she never learned. Why are you telling me this? Because I've watched my daughter turn into someone I don't recognize, and I finally understood that her problems won't be solved with more money or more bailouts. With more help from Mommy and Daddy. Mrs. Thompson reached into her purse and pulled out a check. She placed it on the table between us. Sienna asked me to give you this. It's for $380,000. A good faith payment to buy your share from Richard's life insurance policy. I looked at the check, but didn't touch it. And what did you tell her? I told her that I would not be the one to enable her bad decisions ever again. That the check was from Richard's life insurance, money I was saving for her inheritance. She took the check and tore it in half, then into 4 pieces. Mrs. Thompson, that's a lot of money. Money Sienna didn't earn and doesn't deserve. James, I want you to know that whatever your decision about the house, you have my support, even if it means they lose the house. Especially then. Especially then. Perhaps having to start over will teach Sienna what work and gratitude truly mean, what it means to earn things. After Mrs. Thompson left, I was alone with my thoughts. For 3 years, I had been as much an enabler of Sienna's behavior as her parents had been. Every time I wrote a check to cover their shortfall, I was teaching them that there would always be someone there to catch them when they fell, a cushion underneath. The question was, what kind of lesson did I want them to learn now? My phone buzzed with a text from DeMarco. Dad, we got approved for a home equity loan that would cover $525,000 to buy your share. Can we meet to discuss installment payments for the rest? I stared at the message for a long time. They were trying, which was more than they had done in years. But a home equity loan meant sinking deeper into debt, not learning to live responsibly. I wrote back, we can discuss, but I want to see a full household budget and a realistic plan to pay off all your debt, not just mine. Everything must be on the table. His response came immediately. Whatever you want, Dad. We just wanted to fix this, please. For the first time since it all began, that sounded like progress, like genuine change. The budget meeting was revealing in the worst possible way. DeMarco and Sienna spread their financial documents across Patricia's conference table like evidence of a crime, which in a way they were. All right, I said, reviewing their monthly expenses. You spend $5,400 a month on dining out. $5,400? We both work long hours, Sienna said defensively. Sometimes we're too tired to cook. You don't work, Sienna. You're a homemaker, remember? She flushed, but I continued. DeMarco works long hours. You spend all day at home and don't cook. I kept moving down the list, feeling my blood pressure rise with every line. $4,200 a month in Sienna's clothing budget. $4,200 on clothes you wear once, and then sell online for a fraction of the price. I need to look professional for social events, she protested. What social events? You don't have a job. You don't have business meetings. Sienna's face was turning red with shame and anger, but I wasn't going to stop. $3,850 on premium cable TV, Netflix, HBO, Disney+, Amazon Prime, Apple TV, and 5 other streaming services you probably don't even use. $275 on Sienna's gym membership at the expensive East Memphis Athletic Club, which you use maybe twice a month. I dropped the papers on the table. $11,800 a month in minimum credit card payments for what appears to be shopping and travel debt. Trips to Miami, Las Vegas, the Caribbean, all on credit. DeMarco was tallying the numbers on his phone calculator, his face getting paler and paler. Dad, I know it looks bad. It looks like you're living a lifestyle that requires $17,900 a month when you bring home $11,750. That's a $6,150 deficit every single month. But with the loan, we could pay off the credit cards and reduce our monthly expenses significantly, Sienna said hopefully. Sienna, you would be taking out a loan against the house to pay off credit card debt. What happens when you rack up credit card debt again? What happens in 6 months when you're back where you started? We won't. We've learned our lesson, I promise. You haven't because I don't see any significant changes in this budget. You're still dining out constantly. You're still maintaining expensive plans you barely use. You're still treating shopping as a hobby. DeMarco leaned forward. What do you want to see, Dad? What will convince you that we're serious about change? Tell us what to do. Finally, the right question. the one I'd been waiting for. I want to see a budget that reflects your actual income. I want to see you cooking at home, canceling unnecessary subscriptions, and I want Sienna to get a job, a real full-time job. A job? Sienna looked horrified. Yes, a job. You're 38 years old with a college degree in business administration. There is no reason why you can't contribute to the household income. No valid reason. But DeMarco earns well. He has a good salary. Not well enough, apparently, since you've been supplementing with my money for 3 years without me fully knowing. Patricia cleared her throat. James, what exactly are you proposing? I had thought about this for days, sleepless nights, turning it over in my head. Here is my offer. You can buy my share for $680,000 instead of the full market value of $735,000. Almost a $55,000 discount. They both perked up visibly. But there are conditions, strict conditions you must meet. What conditions? DeMarco asked cautiously. First, Sienna gets a job within 60 days and keeps it for at least 2 years, full-time salaried with benefits. Second, you sell one of your cars and use the proceeds to pay down debt, the Lexus or the Infiniti. You choose. Third, you stick to a realistic budget. No dining at restaurants more than twice a month. No unnecessary shopping, and no new debt for 2 years. How are you going to monitor that? DeMarco asked. With monthly financial reviews with Patricia, you provide bank statements, credit reports, and income verification. All transparent, all verifiable. And if we violate any condition, Sienna's voice was barely a whisper. If you violate any condition, the full amount is immediately due. The full $680,000. And I will proceed with the forced sale of the house with no further discussion. This is like being in financial prison, Sienna said, shaking her head. No, Sienna. This is called being responsible for your decisions. This is called accountability, being adults. They asked for time to discuss it privately. As they talked in the hallway, Patricia turned to me. This is either very generous or very cruel. I can't decide which. Maybe it's both. Maybe they need both. When they returned, DeMarco spoke for both of them. We accept your terms. All of them. All of them. Sienna confirmed, though she looked like she was swallowing poison. Patricia began drafting the agreement. It would need to be notarized and filed with the court. All legal, all binding. As we finalized the paperwork, I watched my son and daughter-in-law sign away their financial freedom for the next 2 years. Part of me felt victorious. Part of me felt sad that it had come to this. But mostly, I felt like I was finally teaching them a lesson their parents should have taught decades ago. Actions have consequences, and family is not a free pass to treat people poorly. As they signed the final document, Patricia made one observation. This agreement is legally binding. Any violation will result in immediate legal action. You both understand that? Yes, they said in unison. As we stood up to leave, DeMarco approached me hesitantly. Dad, I know you're still angry. I know it will take time to rebuild trust, but I want you to know we're going to comply with this. We're going to prove it to you. I hope so, son. For your sake. I truly hope so. Sienna kept her distance, unsure of what to say. Finally, she spoke in a soft voice. Thank you for giving us a chance, Mr. Caldwell. We won't waste it. I promise. Time will tell, Sienna. Time will tell. That night, sitting in my hotel room, I realized I had crossed a threshold. I was no longer the father desperate to maintain peace at any cost. I was a man who had finally learned to protect his own interests, while still offering a hand to those who were willing to work for their redemption. And that, I decided, was exactly the kind of father I should have been all along. 6 months later, I was sitting in my new condo, a beautiful 2-bedroom place in a senior living community in the Valentine Evergreen area with a pool, community gardens, and walking trails. A place where I finally felt at peace. My phone rang with surprising news. Mr. Caldwell, it's Sienna. And her voice sounded different, lighter, more genuine. I got the promotion. Sienna had started working as a receptionist at a medical clinic in Midtown and had apparently been good enough to be promoted to office manager, a real job with real responsibilities. That's wonderful, Sienna. How do you feel? Exhausted, she laughed. And it was the first genuine laugh I had heard from her in years, but also proud. I never knew I was good at organizing things, managing staff, solving problems. You always were. You just never had to use those skills before. There was a pause, a meaningful pause. James, I owe you an apology. A real apology, not that panicked one I gave you in Patricia's office. I'm listening. I'm here. I have been awful to you for years. I treated you like an ATM, and then got angry when you had feelings about it. I convinced myself that you were just being dramatic. But the truth is, I was the entitled one, the cruel one, the spoiled one. What made you change your mind? Having to work for money instead of just asking for it. Realizing how hard it is to save even $150 when you're paying your own bills, and understanding what you sacrificed to help us. Everything you gave without asking for anything in return. James, would you ever consider coming over for dinner? Nothing fancy, just homemade fried chicken, and maybe some conversation that isn't about money, a normal family meal. I would like that, but let's start with a meal in a public place. Baby steps, Sienna, small, sure steps. Of course, whatever you're comfortable with. The first few monthly financial reviews with Patricia were eye-opening. DeMarco and Sienna brought their bank statements, credit card reports, and receipts like nervous students handing in homework. Restaurant expenses this month, $425. That's within the 2 times a month limit. Good, Patricia said. We bought a cookbook, Sienna said shyly. I've been learning to make new things. Fried chicken, collard greens, macaroni and cheese, cornbread. DeMarco says I cook better than some restaurants. Clothing $290 this month. We sold the Infinity, DeMarco announced. We got $52,000 for it. We paid off 3 credit cards completely. In 2 months, they had reduced their debt by almost $78,000. They were making real progress. For now, you are in full compliance with the agreement. Keep up this progress, Patricia said. 2 years after that fateful day when Sienna told me to disappear, I found myself at a small garden ceremony in Overton Park. DeMarco and Sienna were renewing their wedding vows. Not an extravagant wedding with 175 guests, but an intimate ceremony with 28 people who truly mattered. When it was time for the vows, DeMarco spoke first. Sienna, 2 years ago, I promised you eternal love. But today, I want to promise you something deeper. I promise to work with you, not expecting others to fix our problems. And I promise to never forget the lessons we learned when we almost lost everything. Sienna was crying but smiling. DeMarco, 2 years ago, I wanted a fairy tale wedding that would impress everyone. Today, I want a real marriage that makes us happy. I promise to keep growing, to keep working on myself, and to never take what we have for granted. I promise to honor the people who loved us enough to force us to change. After the ceremony, DeMarco asked me to say a few words. I stood up looking around at all these familiar faces and felt a deep peace. 2 years ago, I made the hardest decision of my life. And at the time, many called me cruel, vindictive, too harsh. But today, seeing what they have become, I understand that sometimes the deepest love is not the one that gives everything, but the one that knows when to stop giving. The love that sets boundaries is not cold love. It's wise love, courageous love. I raised my glass. I toast you not for who you were, but for who you have become and for the journey that brought us here. The difficult, painful, but absolutely necessary journey. Now, as I tell this story, almost 3 years have passed since that day. What matters is that I have a real relationship with my son, that Sienna has become the daughter-in-law I always hoped to have. What matters is that setting boundaries didn't destroy my family, it saved it. At 71, I finally understand something I should have learned decades ago. You can love someone and still tell them no. You can be generous without being an ATM, and you can be family without allowing abuse. If you're watching this and facing a similar situation, I want you to know this. Setting boundaries doesn't make you bad, it makes you wise. Saying no doesn't make you cruel, it makes you healthy. And forcing the people you love to face consequences is not revenge, it's love. The toughest kind of love, but also the most transformative. The story of how my daughter-in-law told me to disappear could have ended in tragedy. Instead, it became the story of how temporarily disappearing gave all of us the space to find something much better. A real family built on respect, gratitude, and genuine love. And that, in the end, is the best story I could ever tell. Did you like my story? And which city are you listening from? Let's meet in the comments. If you like the story, you can support me by sending a super thanks so I can keep bringing more stories like this. Thank you so much for your sweet support. I'm looking forward to your comments on the story. On the screen, you can see 2 new life stories that I highly recommend. There's so much more on my channel. Don't forget to subscribe. See you in the next life story. With love and respect.